and I met a new special friend. Vinegar? What in the world would you want vinegar for, Mr. Potato Head? Ah, you're hungry. Okay. What's that? What's that? Oh, hi there, friends. You caught me. Just finishing up some journaling with my new special friend, Mr. Potato Head. We met each other on the river this week. He's actually vintage. Burger King Child's Meal Deal, 24 years ago. How he survived in the river that long without human assistance is beyond me, but here he is. We've just been making today's entry into our journal. Today is the form of a ransom note. I'm writing it to the sun. That's about the best appearance it's made in the last 12 days, all of 2026, if you can believe it. I'm not letting that slow me down, though. I've utilized the time to go back through my SSD storage. I organize everything I do by month, and then inside each month, I have categories. Portraits, landscape, abstract, impressionism, portfolio, pre-portfolio, possibilities, that sort of thing. You should too. Another thing you should do is journal all your thoughts, all your ideas, all your exploits and experiences, time of day, weather, etc. It's one thing a lot of photographers are not doing, and many pretty successful photographers in the past did indeed do this, and it's what they're most known for now. I'll give you a hint. Peter Beard. Peter Beard, just like the elephants he used to photograph. The other would be Daniel Milner. He does something very similar, and my last year's journal is all filled up. I've been doing some reading. Ficones, Jort Borges, the Brazilian, I believe. Very strange. He's into symbols like I am. And what I discovered over the past year, I've been shooting quite a few symbolic images, and I like it. I slipped on the ice. I did a mad pirouette and came down flat on my back and smacked my skull right on the ice. Right in my 5-stage visual cortex. 5 layers. 5 layers determining the impact of a photograph. That's the layering I'm talking about, achieving in my layering composition. At this point, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Chris, where's that spherical fruit of the universe you promised us in the thumbnail? Well, there's some context. Let me explain. The past 2 weeks, I've been inside more than I've been outside. The weather's been harsh, up and down with temperature. It's been really, really difficult to get access to the ice safely, to drive safely. I ended up in a ditch one day. That was expensive. Anyways, one day when I was inside, going through my storage, killing my darlings, looking for shit, I was listening to an episode of Astrum. That's a long form YouTube astrophysics channel. Very good. You should check it out. Anyways, the topic of the episode was the new search results from the James Webb Space Telescope and the ALMA millimeter and submillimeter array in South America. They've been training a lot of their efforts on the recent discoveries of solar systems actively forming. So what that means is the existence of a new sun and the development of a planetary disk. And what it's doing is confirming a lot of the observations we've made about our own solar system. Specifically, the way different elements, debris, and planetesimals arrange themselves in layers according to their distance from the sun at about 4.5 to 5 astronomical units, an astronomical unit, AU, being the distance equal to the distance between the sun and the earth, which is about 1,000,000 miles, I believe. At that point in our solar system, that's where the asteroid belt is, and it's roughly in between Saturn and Jupiter, where the temperature drops to 150 degrees Kelvin. This allows ice to crystallize. So outside of this snow line, it's called, we get the development of gaseous ice giants. On the inside, we get the development of the much warmer rocky worlds, number 3 being ours. So we get this layering. That same day, I was watching a video, actually a short film, Ukrainian. It was called 2,000 Meters to Adrivka, about a Ukrainian offensive to displace some Russian forces, I think near that famous town that begins with a B. I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, it was a pretty horrific film, but what really struck me was the aerial footage of this particular battle site. The ground was pockmarked with detonation craters that gave the landscape this sort of moldy Swiss cheese-like appearance. So as I'm listening to these programs, I doodle in my journal, and I tend to create these sketches days or even weeks in advance of when I will be writing on that page or those pages, right? So I'm sketching away, and later the next day, I was reading some of Ficcone's, Borges, the Argentinian author, some of his work again, and in particular, I was reading the Library of Babel, and I was struck by something, and in fact, I'm going to read you what I wrote down, transcribed from the first paragraph of that short story. The universe, which others call the library, is composed of an indefinite, perhaps infinite number of hexagonal galleries with enormous ventilation shafts in the middle, encircled by very low railings. From any hexagon, the upper or lower stories are visible interminably. Like all men, sick, I have traveled in my youth. I have journeyed in search of a book. Later in that page, the light comes from some spherical fruits called by the name lamps, two of which illuminate insufficiently each hexagon. As it turns out, the day after, I woke up a little late. It was snowing heavily. I was around 10 a.m., I think, asleep in. Well deserved. I was up late editing. I had the vague recollection of part of a dream. In the dream, I was having a conversation with none other than Mr. Potatohead, whom I had found several days earlier. In that dream, I was asking him what he was doing out on the river. How come he was out on the river for so long? And he was telling me, or he asked me rather, don't you remember what happened to me? To which I replied, no, I don't. And he said, well, during the plague in 2021, one layer of society had gotten into their minds that he was no longer entitled to use the salutation Mr. It was not inclusive. In protest, rather than defer to their improper judgment, he banished himself to the river. And I asked him, why the river? And he said, because obviously I'm looking for the spherical fruit of the universe. What was really weird about that was the sketch that I had drawn when I was listening to Astrum and watching that Ukrainian film was this. Later that day, I went out looking again for the reason why the mink were not at my site from last winter. One of my preferred sites where I can more or less tackle two series at the same time, my ongoing ice series and my ongoing winter mammal series. I'm particularly fond of mink. They're very interesting. One of the ways we look for mink is to look for their shit. I was out that day and I noticed some shit on the ice off in the distance. And it was adjacent to a structure, an element in the landscape I'd seen many, many times, but I hadn't really paid that much attention to, although I did film a launch of a drone sequence about 4 years ago, I think, from that location. Anyways, to investigate the movement, the activity I'd seen out by that structure, I launched my drone, and wouldn't you know, that's the structure you see in the introduction. Now, it could be wishful thinking, but I'm thinking it looks a lot like that. Now, I've replaced both my ice location, lots of interesting features as I've shown you here earlier, and this season will be otter that obviously chased those mink away, or quite possibly even killed them. Another layer, trophic layers. When I first spotted that otter, he was under the ice in an air pocket, munching on a crayfish, looking at me. On that note, thanks for watching. Much appreciated. See you next time.